Uh, Business stakeholder is the term that we have repeatedly heard while doing our previous topics. A stakeholder is a very commonly used concept in business, and we have been studying it. We have been using this term again and again while studying different topics. Now, today we are going to talk about the stakeholders. In this topic, we'll understand what are the stakeholders, what are the types of stakeholders, and especially we'll talk about the roles, the rights, and the responsibilities of different stakeholders in the business. With this, we'll try to understand why different stakeholders are interested into the activities of the business. Uh, Stakeholders are the people or the group of people who are interested into the activities of business who are interested into the activities of business because they are affected by the decision making of the business. They are affected by the decision making of business. It means whenever business takes a decision, for example, opening a new branch or the closing a new branch, there are few people who will be affected always you can identify. For example, you as a consumer is buying chocolates daily from a store and store decides to close. You have to move a little more or far to buy your chocolates or juices. You will be affected. I, as a supplier, supply rice on that store, for example, as a supplier, and the store decides to close. I might face a problem in collecting of repayment of my cash or finance that I've invested into that business as a supplier. There is another person who is doing job there. He might lose his job because store has decided to close. Similarly, in the case of opening of that store, all these people will be affected. So these people are called the stakeholders who are affected by the decision making of the business. Who are the stakeholders? Let's make a list of that. There is a longer list of the stakeholders. We'll talk about a few and we'll try to understand what are the roles and responsibilities of those. Let me make the list of stakeholders first. Owners are the stakeholders, first of all. That might be called shareholders in the case of limited companies, partners in the case of partnership, or members in the case of cooperative. Then we have customers. Then we have suppliers. We have managers. We have employees, other employees, I might call it. We have local communities, government. And we have some special interest groups too. For example, pressure groups who, as we have studied in the CSR topics, that pressure groups are those groups who insert pressure on the business for doing positive activities towards the economy and community. And we have lenders, for example, banks from whom we have taken loans and all that. There are two types of the stakeholders. One are called the external and second are called the internal. The owners and employees are called internal stakeholders, and rest of the stakeholders, I mean the most of the stakeholders, are external. Internal stakeholders are owners and employees, and rest of the stakeholders are external stakeholders. For example, customers, suppliers, etc. Government, all are external stakeholders. Now, we are going to talk about individually about the role of every stakeholder and the right of every stakeholder. And with this, we'll study the responsibilities. When we talk about the responsibilities, it means that they are not necessarily legally binding over that stakeholder, but still, if they do their job, that is good. Let's start with the customers. The most important, I may call it the most important stakeholder because it's because of the customer the business is being run. Customers. What are the roles of customers? Let's make a list of that. Today's lesson a little lengthy. To purchase goods and services, first of all, the business is offering. Then to provide revenue from those sales that business is doing, to become a source of revenue. And that revenue is used by the business for the purpose of future expansions and all that. What is their right? First of all, to receive goods, whether they are national or international buyers, business always gives them time to receive the goods, and they must receive goods within that specific time. Uh, to be offered replacements if the products are faulty or business find and the customer finds any problem in that, this is their right that the product should be returned and business should accept that return. And what are their responsibilities? Now, about responsibilities, I've already told you that it's not necessary that the responsibilities are legally binding. The first responsibility is very general. The customers should be very honest about the goods and services they have bought when they are requested to give an opinion about the product. This is responsibility when they are visiting a store not to steal. They should purchase everything. They should not make false claims about the product just because they have used it and they do not find they are not okay with that product and they want to return it, so they make false claim, this product is faulty, this product is faulty. So no false claims. That's whatever we have about the customers. Moving to the another stakeholder, that is supplier. Supplier are those people who supply goods and services to us, who are a source of provision of raw material to us, finished goods to us, packaging to us, or the supplier of many services too. So what is their role? Their role is to supply goods and services on time. A security agency might supply services of the security to the business. A raw material supplier might supply the raw materials to the business. What is their right? Again, they must be paid on time because they are supplying you the services and the products both. To be paid on time. To be treated fairly. Business should not exploit them by delaying their payments or using any other tactics. To be treated fairly. Moving ahead, what are the responsibilities? to supply goods and services on time, not to use any delay tactics, on time supply, be fair in the time of shortages, do not delay the payments because they want to increase the price. The next stakeholders that we have in list is employees. Now, we will bifurcate employees and managers, and I'll talk about the managers, I'll tell you why this is so. Employees are the people who are working with the business to fulfill their job duties, and they receive wages and salaries against that. What are the roles of employees? To provide their services, to fulfill their job duties according to the employment contract. Now, what is this employment contract? We're going to study in the unit number 2. According to contract of employment. What are the rights of those employees? Employees should be given the contract of employment. The contract of employment is a legal document where all the terms and conditions of the employees, the contract between the employer and employee are written. So the employees should be given that legal document. So in the case of any conflict, they can find out what are the ways for them. Should be given contract of employment. They have right to be treated fairly. They should be treated according to the contract that has been, according to the all terms and conditions that have been written in the contract of employment. A right to be treated fairly. And employees have a right to make a trade union. Now, what is this trade union? This is again, we are going to study in future. Right of making or joining trade union. Trade union are the groups of employees who they have formulated to protect their rights of the job. This is the basic right of every employee. In most of the countries of the world, this is the basic right of every employee to make a trade union and try to protect their own rights. What are their responsibilities? Again, some are very general, like being honest, they should also meet the uh, terms and conditions of employment contract. It means that they should also act upon whatever has been decided in the terms of contract of employment. Meet the terms of contract of employment. And they should be cooperative with the management on their reasonable request. They should not always deny that I cannot do this, I cannot do this. They should also observe the ethical code of conduct while doing the jobs. The next stakeholder that we have is local government. We'll bifurcate the local government with the central government, and we'll try to identify the reasons of that too. Local government are the city governments usually. What are their roles? Let's talk about that. Local government provide the local structures, infrastructure to the business, like roads, role. They provide local infrastructure. They provide local systems like water, sanitation, like the problem solving of the electricity problems or communication issues. And they charge a tax for that, by the way. What are their rights of the local government? Business should not affect the community life so that local government might not suffer. Like I've observed in Pakistan that if the heavy traffic has to be passed of some business from within the city, the local government has made a law that the heavy traffic should pass after midnight, like after 12 o'clock, so that the daily life of the citizens might not be disturbed. So this is the right of the local government that businesses should follow that. And then the what are their responsibilities? To meet the reasonable request from the business, to meet reasonable request of businesses. Moving forward, we have the central government, or we call it simply government. What are the roles of the government? Government passes laws about the business. Passes laws about the business. Government also provide the law and order, better law and order situation so that business might work with the stability. Better law and order situation that also provides the economic stability and the um, uh, stability for the government to operate with full of their potential. Then what are the rights of the local government? Business should meet all the laws that are related with the business, should follow all the laws. Business should abide by the labor laws, the taxes laws, tax payments, etc. And talking about the uh, responsibilities of the local government, they should treat business equally under the law. They should treat business equally under the law. We call it equal treatment of all businesses. They should also prevent the unfair competition so that other businesses might not exploit a new, for example, or a recently starting business. Now, what is unfair competition? We have to wait for that. We'll study that in future. Prevention of unfair competition. Government should also establish the uh, good trading links with the other countries so that if business want to export something, they can easily export. And if business want to import something, they can easily import. These are the government roles, rights, and responsibilities. Coming to another stakeholder, that is a lender. Lenders are the people who have given loans and the finance to the business. So their role is providing finance to the business. What is their right? That finance should be repaid on time, whatever the dates business has decided with them. So repayment on agreed dates. And business should also pay the finance charges, I mean interest. Because this is the reason because which banks are doing business to receive the interest. This is their profit. Moving ahead. What are the responsibilities? To provide the agreed amount of finance on the agreed dates. To provide the agreed amount of finance on agreed dates. Because business is in need of money and business has requested for a finance, the banks should give finance on that specific date so that business can use it for its own expenditures. Coming to another very important stakeholder, that are the managers. If you remember the topic of limited companies, I told you that in the limited companies, it's the managers who run the systems of the business, not the owners and the shareholders directly. So managers are those people who are controlling the business, who are making the decision making regarding the business. The senior employees of like directors of the business and all that. That's why I told you that we will study manager separately from the employees. So what is the role of employee? A role of manager, sorry. Role of manager is to control the business, to command the employees, to achieve the required results or to achieve the objectives. And they also organize the resources to achieve the decided objectives. These are few of their roles. There are many, but these are few of their roles. What are the rights of the managers? This is a very important discussion. What are the rights of those managers? The managers should also be given the contract of employment because after all, they are employees of the business. They should also be given contract of employment, and they should be given sufficient authority to meet their objectives and to fulfill their duties. Sufficient authority to fulfill their duties. And what are the responsibilities of those managers? They should report to the stakeholders because shareholders, because the shareholders who have elected them in the board of directors meetings and in the annual general meetings. So they are responsible to the shareholders for whatever they do. They should report to the shareholders for all of their activities. And they should always be doing all activities that are legally and ethically correct. legally and ethically correct activities. Although it's a very relative term when we talk about the ethically correct, but still the ethics of every country are there and they should follow those ethics. Very important stakeholder again, the owners and the shareholders. The owners and the shareholders. Their role is to provide finance to the business. Finance to the business. They should invest money into the business because they are running actually business through their finance. What are their rights? They must receive share of profit. This is the reason they have invested. They want to receive profit by the end of year, and they should also receive the reporting on the business, accurate reports of business that are to be provided by the directors or the managers we have earlier studied. Accurate reports about the business. What are their responsibilities? That are not legally binding, but still they do exist. They should set targets for the managers, that these are the objectives that you have to achieve. Set targets for managers. They should also give adequate time to managers so they can make all of their possible efforts to achieve those objectives. They should also give resources to managers to achieve the objectives that they have decided for the business to be achieved. Another stakeholder that business have is the local community. Local community means people like us. What is their role towards business? Local community usually provides the labor services that are required by the business. What is their right? Business should consider the effects of its decision making on the local communities. Business should consider especially the negative impacts, the effects of their decision making on business. And what are their responsibilities? To cooperate with the business in a reasonable way while businesses are planning their expansions and all that. To cooperate in a reasonable way, especially I told you when business is planning the expansion, business might need land or other resources. So they should cooperate with the business in that a reasonable way so business can go ahead with the expansion plans and all that. So this was the topic that was related to the stakeholders, their roles and their responsibilities towards the business.